Perfect. All right. So welcome to today's webinar. I'll go ahead and read our disclaimer here real quick, and then I'll hand it off to Joe. So the information provided in this webinar and any supplementary materials provided to registrants are intended for educational and informational purposes only and does not constitute professional, financial, or legal advice. No restraint should act, registrant should fail to act on the basis of any material contained in this webinar without obtaining proper financial, legal, or other professional advice specific to their situation. The Northern California Small Business Development Center and its host, the HSU Sponsored Programs Foundation, specifically disclaims any liability, loss, or risk, personal or otherwise, which is incurred as a consequence, directly or indirectly, of the use and application of any of the information presented in this webinar. All right, Joe, off you go.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Joe Rodola here. Now that we got the legal stuff out of the way, welcome to Shasta-Cascade Small Business Development Center's webinar today on credit. We are a nonprofit organization sponsored by and paid for by the SBA and the state of California through GoBiz. So none of this is charged to you today. So the webinar is free for you, but thank you for paying your taxes. So we provide confidential, no cost, one-on-one advisory information and consulting. And of course, we do a lot of webinars. So welcome. As you can see, we have a lot of experts locally. This particular webinar is put together by the Shasta-Cascade North SBDC. So we cover Shasta County and Trinity County up here in the North State. There are SBDC offices throughout the United States and through every county in the United States. So you don't have to always come to us, but today's webinar is being presented by our office. And these are some of our local experts. David Walker is our director. You see my bald head over there in the bottom. We've got Emily, you saw her a minute ago. She's our admin. She's really our heart to the business here. And we have a whole bunch of other people that work here too. We have Rebecca, QuickBooks specialist. We have some marketing specialists with Lonnie. We've got some generalists, which are phenomenal, that can help in all areas. We have marketing people that, in fact, we have a webinar coming up on using YouTube for advertising. So there's all sorts of free advice coming to you from our area and all areas of the SBDC. Here's me. Somebody wrote this for me at the Finance Center. It's a little wordy. Basically, I'm an old guy, all right? Been around the world a couple of times and been in the credit field for over 48 years. So, and I haven't stagnated, which is good as well. So I've kept a pulse on what's going on and active even today. And of course, I have been privileged, in my opinion, and very thankful that I could assist during the major disasters that have occurred in the business field, especially. Going all the way back to 2018 when the car in the campfire hit Northern California. I've been highly involved with the disaster loan funding program and helping people through that SBA process. So what are we doing today? Well, by the end of the day, you understand credit reports and scores a little better, I hope, how to obtain your credit reports, how to connect with us. And of course, if you need help and assistance, we'll be happy to guide you through repairing your credit. Okay, so before you get into trouble, these are some of the things to keep in mind. This is really good now during the COVID process. So the COVID-19, all the shutdowns, who's open, who's closed, hard to even know, right? I've been going on knocking door to door almost, you know, seeing what salons open, what barbershop, what restaurant, you know, what retail store, what gym. You almost have to just go out there and check it out, right? So it's been creating some issues for all of us. So these are some of the things you should do early on in the credit area to protect yourself against coming up against a wall. You do not want to jam yourself in a corner. All right. So first of all, when you're thinking you're going to have an issue, you may not be able to make next month's minimum payment, let's say. Okay. Make a list of the loans and credit card companies and all you owe if you don't already have it on your computer somewhere. So make a list. I always at this point go from the highest dollar amount to the lowest dollar amount. Okay. Loans and credit cards. And you can find out how to get a hold of these people, by the way, by researching your statements, your online statements, to find out the phone numbers and contact information for each of these creditors. Okay, because you're going to be wanting to call some of these people as soon as you can. Don't hide. All right, don't hide. All of these, majority, I can't say all, but for the majority of the credit card and lenders that are out there, whether it's banks, financial institutions, online loan processing groups, and I would venture to say 99.9% of the credit card companies have hardship programs built into their credit background, especially during now the COVID situation. People have had a hard time getting unemployment. They've had a hard time getting disaster funding. It has not been easy. So a lot of these places are offering what I like to call skip pays or deferrals. The real term is deferral payments, okay? So ask when you call, pick the highest one always first is my idea, because then you get the best bang for the buck. If you could miss or skip a $500 payment for some reason, and they have an authorized disaster hardship program to not, make you pay next month's $500 payment, that may be enough to pay the little ones, right? Your $10 or $15, $20 minimum payments. So only pick the ones you need to make it work for you, okay? Figure out which accounts will give you the best relief, which we just talked about. They'll still charge interest. The companies aren't going to lose any money. What they're doing is giving you cash flow. Cash flow is the issue, right? If you're unemployed, if you're cut back hours, your cash flow has decreased. So it's a cash flow issue, hopefully temporary, but it's a cash flow issue. So if you can skip a payment, I'll give you an example. My wife was laid off last year due to COVID. The mall she was working at closed their doors. So all of a sudden she has no income coming in. So she goes on and tries to find unemployment and get on that. That was a barrel of laughs here in California, I can tell you. It wasn't easy. So we have car loans. And she had a car loan through a local credit company, okay? A credit union, local credit union. She calls them and got through immediately, and they say, "Oh, okay, yeah, sure. So how many months would you think you're going to need to skip?" She didn't even have to talk to them more than a couple of words. "I've been laid off. I'm having a hard time with unemployment." Boom, they came out with this plan. They would defer 1 to 3 months payments on the car, tack those payments onto the end of the contract, so she didn't have to make the payment next month and show late. The whole idea here is to not end up showing late on your credit report. Showing late is what issues, which lowers your score, which we'll talk about in a minute. So all of these companies have these programs for the most part. So don't think there's no help out there. There is help, okay? It's a temporary fix, no doubt. You don't want to do this for extended periods of time, because the interest rates on some of these credit cards are pretty high, right? So you don't want it to go crazy. But if you're going to be out of a situation for 2, 3, 4 months, sure is nice to be able to call them for help, okay? If you're on automatic pay, make sure you take the auto pay off of your bank account, otherwise they'll keep taking it. And of course, adjust your budget to find out, when you can start making regular payments again, and to make sure that it'll fit. All right, so let's start with the meat and potatoes. Credit score. Going back to the early 70s when I started in the banking industry, I was a banker for almost 25 years, just shy. Credit score was not a big deal. We didn't even have computers in the banks in 73. They didn't come into the banks till about 74, 75. And we were at Bank of America, see? So we were probably one of the first to get online computer systems. But back in 72, 73, when I started, late 72, 73, they didn't even have computers. So credit scoring wasn't a big deal. We used credit report only. And by the way, the credit report and what you have on your credit history creates the score, okay? So how do you find out what your credit score is? Several ways you can find out for free. Many credit card companies that you already have, Capital One, for instance, Discover Card, offer a free service to check your score. Might as well take advantage of it if they're not going to charge you. The whole idea here is to obviously not be charged, okay? If you're a member of a credit protection company like Legal Shield or some of these other companies, they may offer a free score check service. The other one, which I use, which is not a perfect system, obviously, is creditkarma.com. I'm on a quarterly review in my particular case with Credit Karma. They send me an email saying, you know, go ahead and check the numbers. Congratulations, it's going up. Gee whiz, it's going down, you know. And you can track and see the ebbs and flows of the score. A score will flow based on how much you owe on credit cards. You can make payments perfect all the time. But if your balances fluctuate up, score will drop. If your credit card balances fluctuate lower, your score will go up. So it all controls. So it's nice to know where you are at any given time. And again, no charge. Perfect, right? How is the score, or what is the score made up of? So here you go. You've got these basic percentages on what the score is made up of. 30% of it is based on how much you owe, the amount you owe. 35% of the score is based on, do you make your payments on time? Do you make your payments on time? And by the way, normally, I've seen it a couple times happen differently depending on history, but normally you do not get a ding on your credit report until the payment is past due for 30 days. Because they don't want to report too early. They want to give you a chance to recover. So if you have a problem or an issue where you're late for 4 or 5 days, you'll probably have a late fee, but you'll probably not be reported to the credit bureau. So that's a good thing too. Excuse me. So 35% credit history, payment history. And again, the rest of it, 10% new credit, 15% how long you've had the credit. So in other words, an 18, 19, 20-year-old will have a harder time to get a high score in that 10% new credit area because they just got it, right? I'm almost 70, so I've had long history. So there's a bonus for being old, all right? So length of credit history, and then types of credit in use. If you use, unfortunately, have to use check cashing facilities, high rate, interest rate, risk, personal loans, it can have an effect as well on the score. What's a good score? All right, I kind of put this in the analogy of a golf scorecard, okay? The highest you can have on the FICO score, it's called, Fair Isaac Credit, is an 850. I have never seen an 850. I've seen some 800 pluses. I always say that that's, you know, basically phenomenal. That's why 720 to 850 I call a birdie. Par, above par, 690 to 719, still good credit, just not as great as 720 and above. 630 to 689 is about par. Okay. Might have an issue or two. You may have an old doctor bill you forgot to pay or something like that. Easily fixable in many cases. But nice to be able to check and see what's doing or causing that. High balances on credit card. If you had 4 credit cards that are all maxed out, that could put you in the par area. And of course, subpar range 300 to 629, varying degrees of below par, right? If someone files bankruptcy and completely does a do-over, you normally end up, by the way, in about the 500s, depending on how long you've had that credit. So even if you file bankruptcy and have to start over, it doesn't totally kill your credit, but it does put you in the 500 range, okay? So credit score, obviously there's free sources, which is very important. Don't pay for it, please. And like I say, Credit Karma is a neat way to find out cheaply and inexpensively. It's no cost, and be able to figure out what your score is. Now you know a little more about the score factors, and you know what the lenders want. If you kind of keep it in your mind and look at your score, on average, 700 and above, okay? 700 and above, okay? You're cool. You're great. Great. Bankers love 700 plus. So if you want to buy a car, you want to buy a boat, you want to buy a house, you know, if you're in the 700 plus range, golden. There's other factors, but you put that in your mind, 700 plus, you're pretty safe. Okay, do we have any questions at this point? Let's see.
So Joe, we do have one, which I think you'll probably be addressing later. But specifically, they said they've used a free credit score to look up their score, and saw that a relative of theirs with the same name, same first and last name, used their information. It reduced their credit score, and they're not sure how to fix it. And it's been a few years.
Yeah, we're not going to specifically cover that today because it's a very difficult scenario. But my thought would be, if you own a business especially, sign up for our services, which we'll do at the end, and then work with me one-on-one. I'll guide you through the steps. You're going to have some help from that relative that's got the similar name for sure, okay? This is a funny little quick story I can go ahead and tell you right real quick. I found out, I thought I was the only Joe Rodola in the United States, Joseph Rodola, right? Had very few relatives when I was younger, and very few, if any, on the West Coast. Well, Facebook, interesting thing about Facebook is I found in the United States on the East Coast another Joseph Rodola. Exact same spelling, you know, middle initial was different, but another guy younger than I am, a little bit, Joseph Rodola. So it does give you that kind of, oh my goodness, what happens if they do a name swap somehow and we cross over? And that can happen. Our social security numbers, I am sure, are no near the same. They can't be. But the names are the same, down to missing the middle initial. So we kind of joked about it on Facebook. First of all, I said, hey, cool to find out there's another Joe Rodola in the United States. And I'm starting to find other relatives I didn't know I had on the East Coast with the last name Rodola, okay? So it's kind of helped me in my ancestry beginnings. But you're right, that situation where you have a relative involved, get the relative involved if you can. Hopefully they'll work together. And if you have questions independently, sign up for services. I'll give you the email address at the end. And if you have a small business, I can help you for free to help you guide you through those steps, okay? Because it is kind of a little more tricky, Okay, so getting the report. See, we got scores so far. So there's another piece to this action. In fact, this is the most important piece, and that is the credit report. There are 3 reporting agencies. I'll go ahead and bring that up now before we talk about annualcreditreport.com. 3 reporting agencies. There are, back in '73 again, when I started in the credit field, there was one, TRW. Okay, it was TRW. If you came into the bank in those days and said you wanted to borrow money, we would say, okay, you know, we'd ask you some questions and get pay stubs and such from you. And then we would say, well, we'll pull your TRW. We didn't even say credit report in those days. There's only one. Since then, there are now 3. TRW sold to Experian. So you may have heard of Experian because that was the company that took over for TRW. And then you have Equifax, and TransUnion. So those are now the 3 national reporting agencies. And as hopefully you can see here on the slide, this is the actual sign-in page for annualcreditreport.com. And it is brought to you by the 3 companies, Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion. This particular free website was formulated because the federal government back about, it's been a long time now, it's probably 25 years ago, 25 years ago at least, said that there's errors on reports. So people should be able to see what's on them to help them guide them through the fix process, right? So this is the website that was formulated so you can pull your reports once per calendar year. So here's the main page. And as you can see, you would go to the request your free credit report, the little red box at the bottom. Watch out for other things that pop up on this screen because a lot of the other things you might hit have a charge attached, okay? So then it takes you to the next page, which is to fill out the form. You hit request your credit reports. And again, you're going to have to give them some personal data. You cannot pull these reports in person. You used to be able to go to 2 or 3 agencies here in Reading. I've been here 25 years now, up in Reading. Hard to believe, but almost half my life I've spent up here in the beautiful North State. And going back 25 years ago, you could go downtown and pull a credit report. This is before these things became, you know, so fancy, these computers. But now it's all done online. So you request the report, and this is the information you're going to need to fill in. You have to have your name, your date of birth, and your social security number. Yeah, you're going to have to put it on the screen. This is a highly protected site, as protected as it can be. I suppose everything can be hacked. It's the way life is these days. But suffice it to say, I feel comfortable pulling the report. I like to see it about, you know, once a year is sure a good idea. Need your current address, previous address if you haven't been there longer than 2 years. Get to select the report. You do not have to take all 3 at once. You technically could take one in January, one in July, and one in November, which, by the way, we do at our house. My wife and I split up the dates and pulling the reports so we can constantly keep an eye on physically the reports during the year. They do not all have the same things on them. People often ask me that question, how come my scores are different? That's because Experian was really basically there originally when the credit card companies formed with TRW, okay, back in the 50s. TransUnion was mostly real estate based. And what was the other one? We got Equifax. Oh, Equifax. Equifax was car companies for car loans. So you may have 1 on 1, 2 on the other 3, but a lot of times they will not all 3 have the same things on them. So you have 3 separate scores. And they will, of course, ask you to answer some questions about your history. They'll say, which one of these is true? You had a loan with a car loan with Wells Fargo, GMC, and Bank of America, and you got to hit the box, okay? Because they're trying to verify, again, that it's you and not someone else. Okay, so then you come up with the reports themselves. This happens to be, I think, the Experian page. Yep. So the Experian page. What's your credit score? Again, be careful of hitting some of the buttons because they may charge you for it. Okay. And print your report is what you hit. And you can then either print the report live or hopefully save it to your desktop as a PDF file. Then you can just review it anytime you want. And then eventually, of course, you could destroy it if you wish and erase it from your desktop. Once per calendar year, okay, for each. So again, my big suggestion to you is to pull them in rotation. Pull them in rotation. That way you have the ability to check what's going on through the entire year. Technically, if you wanted to, I guess you could pull them all in December and then again, pull them all in January. It wouldn't be obviously a good thing to do, but it's calendar year, so you have that option. You have that option. Sample report. So what's on the report? This even goes back to the way they were back in the early 70s, okay? It's the list. It's the list of what is showing on your report. So you'll have everything on here from student loans, IRS debt payments, or in the rears, or, you know, hopefully you don't have a collection from the IRS. All the credit card companies listed individually. So if you had a Macy's card, a Chevron card, a Shell card, Visa, MasterCard, American Express, Discover, they'll all be listed separately. And it'll give all the information about each account, when the account was open, how much the balance is currently as of the last time that the report was updated. They normally only update reports once a month, okay? So your balances will not coincide perfectly, probably, if you use a credit card often. They won't be exact, but it'll be the last time of the report. So balance owed, what the limit is, what the approximate minimum payment is. So all those neat pieces of information are listed, okay, individually. And then it gives you the 30, 60, 90, 120 day late or never late information going back several years, okay? And that's what the bankers used to always, so what I always looked at. That's what I look for. Yeah, you could see when you open the thing, great. Maybe you could see what the balance was, fine. But I'd always look to see zeros in the 30, 60, 90, 120 day late category. I had a customer came in the other day, their score was still a little bit shaky, but they came in and wanted to know why. So had them pull the report, sent it to me. And the biggest issue was there was a divorce involved about 4 or 5 years ago. And the history showed that that she was behind in that category of year. It was actually all lined up perfectly. Okay. It was like July and August of 2016 or 2017 or something like that. And each account, it was all the way down the line, happened that she was late in those, 2 or 3 months of her life. And so I asked the question, right? I said, okay, well, what happened in 2017? What was the deal there in July and August? He goes, oh, that was during my divorce. And, we had issues deciding who was going to make the payments and when, and you know how that goes. A lot of us have been divorced. It's been years for me, but I remember the days 42 years ago when I was divorced. And, it can hang up. Things can hang up. But there was an explanation. You can't really do much about it. you want time to heal. And time, realistically, time is the best healer of a credit report. Time from the event. So if you were in an accident and you were out of work for 6 months, if you were involved in a divorce, if you were laid off during that last financial hit 10 years ago, or last year even, all these events could create an issue. So the time from that event, my brother, unfortunately, he filed bankruptcy back in discharge, they call it. It became final January of 2010. And the credit score was down. He was lowered down to about a 525, 520. So, and he asked me, he goes, well, what should I do? I said, hey, keep your nose clean. Every month you make a payment or you keep your nose clean. He had a car payment. He kept making the car payment, at the time. You didn't have that happen. Keep making the car payment, and eventually, after a little time, they'll start wanting you back, believe it or not, to get more credit. And sure enough, 1 year rolled by, he was up above, 580, 575. Second year, he goes up, he's at 620, 630. He gets a little credit card for a couple $100 from Capital One, beginning of year 3 after, so about 2013. He goes, Joe, Capital One gave me a card. It was a starter card. What they'll do is give you a small limit card. And Capital One is one of the online companies that survived the 28, 29 dive of the real estate market. One of the few credit card companies that did, by the way. And they're all online, Capital One. They're still advertising heavily on television. Easy to apply for. You go online, fill out some information. It's either yay or nay in a matter of seconds. So pretty clean. Anyway, so now it's 10 years later from when he filed, and he's back up to 700, 710. Okay. His old car was paid off. He sold that. He bought another one a couple of years back. Ended up buying a house again in 2019. So, these events, time, again, the best healer, you can't do much about getting rid of it. Some of these companies will say, oh yeah, I'll fix your report for $500. You can't fix a report that easily, okay? Can't fix a report. You can change errors, hopefully. It's really difficult, but you can. Identity theft is killer. So if you have identity theft, you might want to get an attorney involved. It's a possibility. I can guide you so far. A person like myself can guide you so far, but it may take a little more power to get involved with that. On credit card purchases that you make, or credit card purchases that show up and you don't make, okay, you're protected. Just report it. Report it within 30 days if it's showing on your statement. Check your statements often. I check my statements online all the time because all the companies out there that have credit cards want you to go paperless. What's the problem with paperless? You don't see the old statement at the end of the month, do you? Okay. So I have a review and I have an automatic report. If something goes on to my Capital One accounts, I have 2 of them. Boom, I get a notification. So if I buy gas and happen to have to use my credit card because I get paid next week and I'm out of money, I got to get some gas in my car. Bing, it pops up. So it lets me know when stuff's happening. That's cool. That's cool. Tracking is hugely important. So that's the report itself. We'll see where we are here on this handout. So, okay, so getting your credit report, annualcreditreport.com, totally free, doesn't affect your score, and you can pull the reports All three, one at a time, various months, no problem. Save them to your desktop in a PDF, or if you got paper, you don't care about using some ink, print it out. You can check how many pages there are. That's normally the problem on this, is that sometimes these credit reports are pretty lengthy. They're pretty lengthy. They can be 30 pages. So it'd be easier probably to save it on a PDF on your desktop than it is to print the paper out. But suffice it to say, you don't have to be in the dark. That's the key issue, is you do not have to be in the dark. Never be in the dark on credit. That's one of the things that people get surprised about. They don't think about it for a while. And all of a sudden they need something. You know, they need a credit card, or they need to buy a house. One of the issues I have found in the almost 50 years I've been involved in the credit industry is that bad credit, in other words, you miss payments and such, bad credit is almost or is as bad on the credit score as no credit. Some people just buy everything cash. That's an issue. Sorry, that's an issue, because you don't build a history. You don't build a history. If you don't want to use credit, have a credit card, use it, pay it off. Use it, pay it off. You'll have something there to prove credit. Do you have any other questions popping up here as of late? Emily?
No questions in the chat, but it looks like we do have a raised hand.
Okay.
So if you want to go ahead and unmute yourself and ask the question.
Is it Naya? Hi, Naya.
Hi, Nia. I actually took one of your seminars yesterday. It's good seeing you again. Thank you for the information.
Thanks.
So I'm sitting here on my phone, and while I was listening, I checked my Credit Karma, and I only have one thing on my credit that's negative, and it's it's an AT&T bill during a hardship in my life. In the middle of 2019, I don't remember purchasing anything from AT&T. So how would I go about? Do I call AT&T to ask about that, or where do I go?
Your question is so perfect. You're hired. I need you to be on my when I do these classes. Anyway, yes. Okay. So how do you dispute an item? This is called disputing. Okay. And what you do is you start with the company first. So you start with AT&T. Work backwards through them to try to figure out what it is. Is it an old phone bill that something got crossed? Did you, a lot of times what will happen is you have one cell phone carrier and you transfer to another cell phone carrier and you got a little leftover balance and you didn't get the bill, whatever. So start with AT&T first, okay? Step is go to Credit Karma, to annualcreditreport.com, pull your Experian report. It normally has the most stuff. Pull your Experian report, find out, it'll show if it's in collection. So if it's a collection, it'll show. And then you can dispute the collection through Experian right on the annualcreditreport.com website. You can say, hey, I don't remember this. It's reporting on 19. You fill in a little form, zip it off through the annualcreditreport.com Experian, and they'll track it for you back to AT&T. So you got two options. Start with AT&T first. You may be able to head them off there, and then go to your credit report and dispute the item. Then they got to tell you what it is. They got 30 days to do it, period. Or they got to remove it. So it'd be good if they can't find anything, they just have to remove it. So that's the benefit.
Right.
There's the benefit.
So something like that, it's from May 2019. So what did it say? A year and 8 months? Something like that. How long would it take for it to just disappear on its own?
Very good question again. Rule of thumb, 7 years.
Okay.
7 years. So if you did it in 19, so 26, I guess.
No, thank you.
It could fall
I'll
off.
call.
That's a long time. Yeah, that's a long time. So that's that time healing thing we talked about. So I dispute it. Yeah, call AT&T, try to figure it out there, and if not, dispute it through Experian.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Drive safe. Thank you for being with us. Okay. That was a great question. Quick fixes. Here we go. So what impacts your score? Obviously, length of time, using credit cards, how much you got available, and of course, the negative items. This is one of the questions that just popped up. So late payments, collections, foreclosures, repossessions, and bankruptcies. Bankruptcies is probably the biggest negative you can have. My brother's report went from a 750 to a 525 in a matter of 2 months, because that's what happens. Everything goes bad, right? At once, except for that car loan that he had. And so that's the hardest blow. But a collection can have 20, 30 point, 20, 30, 35, 40 points on the drop of your score just for one doctor bill, right? There it is, the doctor bill. You forgot or never got the payment. What I had it happen to me. It was back in 1985. We moved from Ukiah to Roanoke Park. Okay. I thought that all the bills were forwarded. Well, you thought, right? And I just, things got going. I got a new job. I was working hard and, and the kids were, and running around. And I had a dentist bill in Ukiah, small one, about $40. I still owed on a dentist bill. And I didn't think about it. And my tracking was poor. And sure enough, 35 days, 40 days go by, and I did get forwarded the pink notice. And when anybody get a pink notice before, you know what a pink notice is. It's a pink colored paper that identifies, they're reporting you late. So sure enough, I get the thing. I contacted the dentist and said, hey, man, we moved to Roanoke Park. I didn't get the bill. Here's the money. You can even ask for them to remove it. And a lot of times if you make a little error like that and you've been good at making your payments with them before, if you really are sincere about your efforts to fix and repair it as quickly as you find out about it, and they'll pull it. They'll fix it for you. I had one gal that had an issue with doctor bills, wanted to open a business. She found out all of a sudden when she came in to view, it's been several years ago. She came into us and she found out she had a 575 score. And I said, well, let's pull it. It was when we were doing live meetings. I can't wait to do that again, by the way. So we had live meetings. She came in, we pulled it up, and sure enough, she had 3 or 4 doctor bills, all with a local collection agency here in town. And the total was $120 between the 3. So I told her, I said, hey, go in there, be sincere. Tell them that you've got the money. You're sorry you missed these bills. I'm trying to open a business. Could you remove them if I have cash and pay you today? I said, they may not do it. In fact, many times they won't, but it's worth a shot, right? If you can get that credit score up to 650 in a matter of 30 days, because they removed the collections from her credit report, what a deal. It'll go up a little bit even if she makes the payments and they show 0 owed, right? At least you'll have that. Sure enough, she went in, boom. They pulled them. They erased them from the report. She contacted me about 45 days after we had the meeting. She goes, Joe, guess what? They did it. We paid them off and pulled them off my report. My Credit Karma shows 656. So, hey, it works. It works. Late car payment, you know, say your paychecks were coming every 2 weeks. Now you're going to get paid monthly and you got due date issues. Never be afraid to ask for a due date change. Never be, you know, as long as you're not doing it every month, you know, asking for a due date. Some of them have rules. You can only change a due date once every year or once every 6 months. But if you have a due date change because your payroll's changed or your paycheck dates have changed, okay, call them and ask for a due date change. That's doable, it's legal, okay? And balances on credit cards. Here's a prime example. You owe $9,500 on a $10,000 limit card and your other cards are at zero. Believe it or not, transferring some of that balance over to a zero card, you're going to owe the same amount, right? Maybe you'll owe $4,000 on one and $4,500 on the other. Your score will go up because it's balance to limit that creates the score drop. It's a wee bit of a game, but if you know how to play the game, you can win, right? Too many old cards. I call it closing dead wood. Rule of thumb here is have 4 pieces of active credit. 4 pieces. 4 pieces could be the car loan, the house loan, and a couple of credit cards, or the, you know, or student loans and a credit card, you know, whatever. I'm a firm believer. My wife and I, 42 years married this year, very happy, very, very, very cool. She is my best friend, by the way. 42 years of marriage, 25 years ago, we ended up with an issue, okay? We had too many pieces of plastic. Shell, Chevron, BP, Visa, Macy's, Mervyn's, Penny's. We had all of them. Hard to even keep track how many we had. And by the way, that's what thieves love, is to get your zero, find out your zero plastic balance card that you forgot you had and running it up without you knowing it. That's what thieves love. So keep 4 pieces of active, clean credit. Shut down the rest. You can close accounts. That's, if it's closed by you, that's cool. You're controlling your credit situation, right? We bought about 5-6 years ago, we bought a bed, sleep number bed. Put it on a sleep number account. We got the thing paid off, closed it. You don't need, you know, you don't need that thing sitting around there. We have other stuff, car loans and such. So close out the dead wood. Store cards and gas cards are the worst to have. Worst to have. Highest interest rate, and many of them are singular usage. Hate to pick on Kohl's, but a Kohl's card. They take Visa, MasterCard. All these places nowadays take Visa, MasterCard. Gas companies take Visa, MasterCard. All of them. All of them. Don't need a Chevron card anymore. Besides the fact, why do you want to pay Chevron gas prices? Techron's not a big deal. I don't think so. Not worth 50, 60 cents a gallon. Nuh-uh. Again, it's my opinion, but you get the idea, right? Save money. And of course, check for errors. Okay, if you have errors, incorrect addresses, employers, cards you didn't apply for. My wife had a Macy's card pop up on her account about 6 years ago. In January, one of the rules of thumb is you don't take 10% discounts in December for getting cards. They always ask you for that. We had to dispute it, find out it was a mistake made by a person inputting a social security number off wrong. It matched my wife's social security number. It was an error by the person inputting the account number, social security number into the system. It's easy to fix. We went through Macy's. Macy's fixed it for us. We didn't have to go through disputing it. Of course, obviously, missed payments. These are harder to fix. IRS liens, government debt. You can't bankrupt out of government debt, everybody. Can't do it. That follow you to the great unknown, the IRS. So, but you can make payments with the IRS. Payment plans are doable. We did it 5 years ago, payment plan. My wife made a lot of money in her real estate business, more than we thought. We ended up owing $5,000 in April. Payment plan. You don't show late, you take the payments, they charge you a little interest, boom, shakalaka. Everybody's happy. Okay, pay off bills, rebalance, and fix errors. That is the ball game. Any other final questions? So these are some of the things to do, obviously. Annualcreditreport.com. You got 3 reports doable. If you own a business specifically and you want our assistance, many, if not all, of the SBDC offices can help you with setting up a plan to attack your credit report and to help identify ways to fix the credit report. Technically, there's contact information if you know where to look for it on annualcreditreport.com. On every credit report, they've got contact information on who to call. Okay, who to call. It's normally at the end of the report. And I can walk through that as well if you set appointments or if you set appointments elsewhere. And obviously identify quick fixes. Looks like we covered all the goodies. Connect with us. Obviously, we talked about that. And here's how to do it. So we are, again, the Shasta-Cascade SBDC. We're serving Shasta and Trinity County up here in the North State, way North State. Emily, of course, our wonderful admin, is with us today. There's her email address. There's our website. You want to sign up for free consulting services. There it is, sbdcsc.org. And if you're not in our area and wish to be helped, you can go to americassbdc.org and find your SBDC, or go to norcalsbdc.org. And our Northern California division up here covers from about Stockton to the Oregon border, including San Francisco all the way up to Crescent City, and Tahoe all the way up to the end of the state. So long, broad area. It covers NorCal SBDC.
All right, and then so I just put the link to our survey in the chat. So it really helps us out if you fill that out for us. And then any other questions?
You can all get copies of this deck when we're done. Emily can send it out to you with your email address. And thank you all for joining. There's no other questions. Have a wonderful day. I hope to see you soon if you need our help. And again, check our website out, sbdcsc.org, for a lot of other webinars coming. I also teach how to start a business class once a month. What is that called? Shameless plug. So shameless plug, how to start a business. The next one's going to be on February 18th from 4 to 5:30. And we have a bunch of others. We got QuickBooks, phenomenal QuickBooks classes by Rebecca. Amazing. All righty, guys. Well, have a great day. We'll see you all next time, and stay safe and enjoy the day.